Hello everyone. Today we're going to be going over the 450 signature assignment. So you're going to want to go ahead and jump into your Canvas course shell, as you can hopefully see here. And then you're going to go to modules on the left side here, and it's right at the top of your modules. So you can go ahead and open up that. And you're going to see some pretty straightforward instructions to start with. First thing I would recommend looking at, I got some of this open ahead of time, but I'll go ahead and reopen so we can all see the same thing, is the template that you're going to be doing. The purpose of this signature assignment is to create basically a lesson plan using the essential elements of instruction, which you can see at the top of the document there. What that really means is that you need to make sure that you hit every single box that is listed out here, and you need to make sure that you fill in your reasoning, your reflection, things like that, on the right hand side. For instance, some of these starting boxes, connection to standards. You're going to identify standards that are going to be attached to your lesson plan. I know a lot of students have a hard time figuring out where to start, and one of the things I highly recommend is that you use the information from your probes that you've been doing in this class to inform how you design this lesson. So if you did a probe on math, you did a probe on reading, something like that, I would build a lesson that basically builds off of that. So think about your probes and the final few questions where you're considering the what's next, and address your signature assignment in that context. So you would look, say you're doing one on reading, you would find standards that align with the grade and the content that you're covering, and you would put those standards in here just like you would for any lesson plan. But on the right hand side here, you're going to go ahead and fill in why'd you pick those? Why did those standards stand out? Kind of just defend your reasoning. It's a good skill to start to develop as a teacher because you will have to do that a lot. That being said, that is the core concept of this signature assignment. So make sure you go through, and each box basically tells you what you need to do. So connection to standards, prior learning assessment. In the prior learning assessment box, you can actually put the probes that you did. You can talk about those. That you did a prior assessment in the form of a probe, and then you just talk about what you did for your probe. You sat down with a student and had them read you some passage, and they got X amount of words correct in X amount of time, or something like that. Instructional objectives, that's your typical objectives from any lesson plan that you've already written, and you can do that in any format that feels right to you. Obviously, as it states here, you're going to need both a professional version and then the student-friendly version. Basically, what would you write on the board, or how would you word it to a student as you start your lesson? Cultural family development and considerations. You just need to talk about the background of your students that you're working with. If you don't have a ton to work with there, I mean, just write what you know. Don't worry about trying to fluff that up. It's not necessary. But you should know about your students, and that's something that as you're working with your practicum teachers, when you're considering what probes to do, you should be talking to them about the student that you're going to do the probe with. Adaptations for student success. This you just check various things that you used. You can fill in extra ones if you did. You can also put, if you used a worksheet or something and you want to include that, you can attach that to the bottom and then just add worksheets and then put like C bottom or C end of whatever, doesn't matter. I mean, this actually does matter, don't blow this off, but I mean, formatting is not what you're going to get nailed on here. Then type of lesson. A lot of these are going to be smaller, but it can be whole group if you think the whole group would benefit for it. This might be something that you talk about up here, why you're doing whole group, and it might be something you address down here. But this template is it's quite well laid out in that you just follow along and then you answer the questions on the right. I'm going to hop back. You don't need me to read you every section. You're all seniors at this point, mostly, and you can read yourselves. There is a second version of the template, This version always pops up really weird on my screen, but I've left it in there for people that can access it. I prefer to use Google Docs as my default. I believe this does pop up correctly on things like Microsoft Word and whatnot. And all this does is this yellow side over here, which my Speechify is currently over, this yellow side actually has the rubric, which you can also find down here. This rubric is exactly how you're graded. I go through and I assign each section basically 1 to 3 points. And you will notice as you go through this rubric, it actually aligns pretty well with the sections that you're finding in here. So I just go through and I read each section, make sure it was well written, and that you hit all the bases. If you're not sure how much you need to have in a section, look at your rubric. It's pretty straightforward. This video, which will not actually be 3 minutes at the end of this recording, but this video will be updated for this current semester, so you can always rewatch this if you have any questions. Also, please feel free to email me or message me. My contact information is in Dr. Brady's syllabus as well, if you have any questions. I do not want this signature assignment to be any sort of big looming concern. We will work through it, and one of the things I do encourage that has been written here multiple times is send me your rough drafts ahead of the due date. I will look at any rough draft that is given to me more than 24 hours before the due date. If you give it to me right before, sometimes the due date ends up being on a Monday, and I'm just not always at my computer on Sundays. But if you give it to me fairly early, and if you try and do it the week before, I will definitely get it back to you with feedback, and if you just follow the feedback, you will get 100%. So, the other thing you can also look at is at the bottom here, that I'm kind of circling. I wish I had an actual circle thingy, but that's okay. Is the student examples. And you can look, there are 3 different student examples. I'm going to go ahead and open all 3 of these up. And the reason there are 3 is that they're different grades. So these are all ones that passed. They did really well. I want to say this one, the 3rd grade one, is the really top tier version. But they all were very well done. Kindergarten was very well done, and 1st grade was very well done. But it is highlighting some differences that you're going to see. 3rd grade, lesson plan is going to be an hour. 1st grade, lesson plan is going to be 30 minutes. So there's going to be differences, and that is important. We don't want you to make just a generic lesson plan to make us happy. This is to prove that you know how to make lesson plans for varying grades, of varying subjects, of varying abilities. I believe that's it. You'll go ahead and turn this in here. Like I said, I use the rubric to grade, so that's all there is to it. And please, please, please reach out if you have any questions or if you want any of the sections clarified. I know sometimes there's confusions on the question there, but I don't want to assume anything or read stuff to you that you could just read yourselves. So